Thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar specifically around collaborative project ecosystems with the Autodesk Construction Cloud. First, I want to just run you through the agenda so that you know what you can expect for today. I'm going to start off just by introducing both Baynes and Baynes. You most likely would have received an email invitation to attend this webinar from either one of these organizations so that you know where we fit into the ecosystem. Then, to set the scene before we jump into the technology and the ways that one can collaborate, I want to just also introduce you to BIM and the common data environment. And then I'm going to hand over to my colleague Savanya, who I will introduce in a moment, to take you through the Autodesk Construction Cloud solutions specifically for design workflows and for everything on a project that comes prior to construction. And we'll also look at the Autodesk Construction Cloud solutions in terms of the construction stages of a project. And at the end, we'll do a close and also allow for a Q&A session. On the GoToWebinar panel, you should be able to see a question box. If there's any questions during the course of the webinar, you're welcome to go and post it in that chat box, and we'll get to those questions and answer them at the end. Firstly, I just want to introduce you to Baynes. Baynes is a partner of Baynes and an Autodesk Gold reseller partner who's based in Mauritius, and they serve Mauritius, Madagascar, and a couple of the Indian Ocean islands. We do also have Arno online with us today. Arno, I can't see my camera because it's behind my slide deck, but if you can turn it on, just to, there you go, I can see it's on from this side. Just so wonderful. Thanks, Arno. So yes, you're welcome to introduce yourself.
Well, I think everybody knows me so far, but yeah, I just said thanks, first of all, to you guys for organizing this webinar. And as you said earlier, there will be question time at the end, and we'll be available to answer any questions, even after the webinar. If there's any information we'd like to have from us, most welcome to contact us.
Great. Thank you very much. So we've partnered with Baynes. We've worked with Arno for many years from a Mauritian point of view. Like he said, many of you probably already know him and have had the privilege to meet him, but some of you may not be that familiar with Baynes. From a Baynes point of view, we are also an Autodesk Gold reseller partner with a couple of very specific specializations, as Autodesk would classify them. And for the purposes of today, I'd like to highlight that we are specialized in the pre-construction and design planning, as well as site construction and operations. And those really are the project stages that the Autodesk Construction Cloud solution fit in. For Mauritius and Madagascar and the Indian Ocean islands, we partner with Baynes, but we do also serve both South Africa and a multitude of other countries in East and West Africa. Then not only just Arno, but you may have also heard of Alex or have received this invitation from Alex. Alex is the Baynes Business Development Specialist for the Construction Cloud solution, specifically for Africa and countries outside of South Africa. I can see Alex's camera is on, so you can see what he looks like, not just on this lovely photo. And Alex has a background in civil engineering and has worked as a civil engineer both in industry and also from the technology implementation side. So if you hear from him in the future, or if you see his name pop up on any emails, you'll know where Alex fits in, and he works closely with Arno from a Baynes point of view. Then I would just like to also position Baynes so that you get a better understanding of what we do and why we are hosting this webinar today. In summary, there's three core things to Baynes business. We do consulting, and that comes in a variety of different things, from BIM consulting to CAD/CAM, people, process, data management, and so forth. We are also very passionate about education. We are an Autodesk authorized training center, and we do offer a variety of different training in person, through our online e-learning platform, or virtual training sessions and project-based training sessions. And then, like I've mentioned, we are also a Autodesk partner, and we have also partnered with multiple other leading technology brands and solutions within a couple of different industries, both building, civil infrastructure, energy, process, mining, manufacturing, and so forth. Now, just so that you also know who are your speakers and your hosts today, I haven't had the chance to introduce myself. My name's Yanni Viljoen. I'm one of the directors at Baynes, specifically looking at the professional services department. And I've been doing this for more than 10 years in different shapes and forms, have been a software trainer, doing a lot of BIM implementation, webinars. I am also an ISO 19650 information management practitioner. And most of the Construction Cloud implementations are led by myself and my colleague Savanya, who do most of those, and we've done quite a few in Mauritius, Maldives, East and West Africa. And then perhaps I'm leaving the best for last, but my co-speaker for today is Savanya. She's our resident architect, also very experienced in the realm of BIM and common data environments, and has done many different webinars and things spoken at industry events and so forth. So happy for Savanya to join me today. Now that you know everyone and where everyone fits in and who's your speakers, let's get started and just touch on what is BIM and the common data environment. And this really is the foundation for understanding how Autodesk Construction Cloud, or the abbreviation ACC, where that fits in. So when you hear us refer to ACC, that is the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Statistics. 63% of construction professionals use between 3 and 6 different applications. I'm sure you can think of your daily life and go, that sounds about right. Now, the challenge isn't necessarily that we are using between 3 and 6 different applications. The challenge comes in when we think about where is the correct information? How does the information in these different systems talk to one another or integrate? And that potentially has some risk attached to it. Within the construction environment, construction is very collaborative, but you're often collaborating with people who you don't necessarily have any authority over. You didn't necessarily choose to work with them. And there's multiple different teams that you just have to get along with in order to deliver this finished product. And all of these different teams in the different stages, from design to planning, building, and ultimately operating your building, your road, your bridge, any other asset, we are emailing, we are retransferring, we are sharing information in different ways, in different times, in different formats. If you have a look at this image, I'm sure despite all of our best efforts, somewhere we have a folder structure that resembles something like this. Or whilst you're on this webinar, I can see that, by the way, whilst you're on this webinar, you may have multiple other tabs open, also replying to emails at the same time. There's 2 different studies. The one was from, just need to get all of my stats correct. The one was from the IDC and the other one was from McKinsey. And one study indicated that 2.5 hours and the other study indicated 1.8. We took the average, that the average employee spends about 2 hours a day looking for information. You can imagine what kind of impact that has on your productivity. When you find the information, did you find it on time? Has the information not changed since when it was uploaded already? And this goes for project information, for how long did it take you to find the link to go and join this webinar? But a lot of us spend our time looking for information. Now that brings us to BIM, or Building Information Modeling or Management. Two different words can be used there. ISO 19650 defines BIM as the use of a shared digital representation of a built asset to facilitate both the design, construction, and operation processes for a built asset, and that is to form a reliable basis for decisions. If this definition doesn't make a lot of sense, or if you are already very familiar with BIM, I always like to just break it down and say, instead of thinking about building information modeling as BIM, think about it as better information management. Because there really are three key components to BIM. First of all, it is a working process. It is not a piece of software. It is not a BIM model. It is a process, ideally a process that should go the entire project lifecycle. And then, yes, there is a virtual asset, the 3D model, which should be the graphical model, the asset data, and the documentation. And then that makes up the information model. But at its core is information. And when we talk about information, I like to always say, think about getting the right information to the right people at the right time. So really, BIM is about how do we manage all of the different pieces of information that's being shared and captured on a project. To break this down a little bit, I like to put them into three categories. First of all is, how do you access the information? Is it easy to access? Is it in the right format? Then we look at the detail. Does it include the details that we need? Think of yourself and how you interact on projects, or your role on projects. Are you getting information from other consultants, from a PM, from a QS, from whoever else on a project that doesn't provide the details that you want? Or perhaps it's providing too much details and you're going, these things are unnecessary. And then last, but certainly not least, now that we have extra information, what can we do with that? That is where we talk about BIM uses. So from an access point of view, it's the common data environment and collaborative information sharing. The details we talk about, are we meeting our information requirements? If I need specific information, am I getting that, or am I getting things that are irrelevant or things that are lacking? And then from a uses, simplest example that I always like to use here, before, when we had only 2D information, you can't really do 3D based clash detection. But now that we have 3D information, the technology can enable us to do things like clash detection, coordination. There's a whole long list of other things that technology enables, and that forms part of BIM uses. You would have heard me mention the BIM definition according to ISO 19650. I like to use this little fun fact, but ISO apparently comes from the Greek word isos, which means equal. And I think that's a nice way to think about the ISO 19650 standard, because this is a global standard, I guess, trying to get everyone on equal ground in terms of how are we working on projects. Often referred to as the BIM standard, but really it is a standard for managing information across the whole project using BIM. Some of you may be familiar with what used to be BS 1192. Those were the old UK standards. If you hear people talk about, I want to BIM level 2, that actually comes from the old UK BIM standards. And the ISO standards were built on top of that. But other individuals from other countries looked at this and say, why are we using UK standards? Can't we create something that we're all on board with? It is a standard of good practice, and if you're not familiar with this, I do suggest that you go and read up a little bit about it, because it gives great best practices and guidelines around how to manage information in this digital realm. One thing that is quite specific in the ISO 19650 series of standards is the use of a common data environment. And the definition of a common data environment is that it is an environment, so it's not an experience. It is also a single source of information. But when we say single source of information, doesn't necessarily mean that it is one system. It could be integrated systems or integrated IT systems. And then it's used to manage, collect, and disseminate documentation. So there's a tightly controlled process for how things enter, how things move through, and how things then leave the system. Both graphical and non-graphical data models for the whole project lifecycle. So this should not be a place where only the architects and some consultants upload Revit models or drawings. It is meant to work for everyone on the project, your subcontractors, architects, engineers, employer, from design through to operation. I do want to introduce you to a couple fundamental principles of the common data environment, specifically from the ISO standard. This is also going to show you when we introduce you to Construction Cloud, that Construction Cloud or Autodesk Docs ticks all of these boxes that the international standard requires. Firstly, information should be produced once and reused, both in terms of how it's shared, the format, and so forth. The system should allow for checks, reviews, and approvals. Again, we're talking about how does information enter, how does it move through, how does it leave? Who needs to check drawings before it gets issued to a contractor? Who needs to review an inspection form? Who can sign that off? All of those different types of things. Also, that information is continuously shared and that you can trust what you are seeing is accurate and up to date. Shared for suitability, and shared for suitability specifically means that people know this is for information. This is for coordination. These are aspects of council submission. This is for construction. Version history, age-old problem, a common data environment definitely needs to have things in place to both keep track and help manage version history. And then last but not least, being controlled and secure with permissions. Again, about getting the right information to the right people at the right time and making sure that there aren't other people accessing things by accident. Now, with that being said, I do want to point out that there is actually a difference between a common data environment, CDE, according to the BIM guidelines, and those are both General BIM guidelines and ISO 19650 versus a data environment or platform that is commonly used. To give you an idea, you could say something like a Dropbox is a data environment that is commonly used. It's not necessarily a CDE according to the BIM guidelines. Before I hand over to Savanya to introduce you to Autodesk Construction Cloud and how that ties in with everything we've just mentioned, I do want to launch a poll. So our poll for today, you will see that on your screens hopefully shortly. There you go. So for today, just give us a little bit of an idea so that we also know our audience better. How do you typically share project information? That could be both internal or with external consultants. I only had 5 options, so if there's something that I did not list here, please select other. Great, so at the moment, there's a couple of votes that we're still waiting for. We're sitting on 30% for Autodesk Construction Cloud, or BIM 360, used to be the old name. About 10 for Dropbox, Google Drive, 27 SharePoint, and 33% other. Wish I had more options so that I knew what those others were. going to give it about another 10 seconds for the votes to come in, and then I will close the poll. But thank you for those who have entered your responses so far. Great. I'm going to close the poll. Thank you, everyone. Almost a 30-30 split between Autodesk Construction Cloud, SharePoint, and other. Thank you for answering that. Great. Next up is the Autodesk Construction Cloud solutions from an introduction point of view. I am going to hand over to Savanya and ask that Savanya takes us through and introduces us to the ACC platform and what it can do in the design stages. Sue, I'm going to make you presenter, and I will stop sharing my screen. There you go. Yes. I can see your full screen, Sue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Yanni. Okay, so hi, everybody. So now that you've heard Yanni speak a little bit about common data environment, a little bit about Construction Cloud, and some of the issues that we find in industry and in sharing and managing information, I'm going to take you through a little bit about Autodesk Construction Cloud as an introduction, and then we'll go through into the document management and the more design heavy part of it. Okay, so just to take you through some of the characteristics of Construction Cloud, what it actually services. So it provides solutions for every part of a project lifecycle. So from design to plan, to build, to operate, and all of this sits within one common data environment. But the platform gives you a lot more than just meeting the requirements of a common data environment. So it gives you additional tools that allow you to manage things like approvals, RFIs, design collaboration, clash detection, etc. So that's why we like to call it a CDE+. And within the platform, you'll get different types of shared data, such as models, drawings, images, documents, etc., that can be uploaded to the platform, that can be shared and managed throughout the project. In terms of the different products or different modules that you have within Construction Cloud, there's Autodesk Docs that forms the basis of the platform in terms of document control, document versioning, and document approval. So functioning as your main document repository for the platform. And then built on top of that will be additional tools that can aid your various work stages during the project. So design, collaboration, issue management, aggregated model coordination, and clash detection using BIM Collaborate or Autodesk BIM Collaborate. And then using BIM Collaborate Pro, we'll add on Revit Cloud work sharing or collaboration for Civil 3D and Plant 3D. Then we have Autodesk Takeoff, which is aimed at quantity surveyors and estimators for the project. And that is scope analysis, 2D takeoff, and automated 3D takeoff. And then in terms of your construction phase or your build phase, Autodesk Build services the project management, quality management, project closeout, safety and cost management, and scheduling parts of the project. So you can see it really gives you the added tools that you need to keep everything within one platform. So thinking about the different phases of a project in terms of design and build and operate, etc. This is where Autodesk starts off with Autodesk Docs in terms of the design phase and the main document management part of it. So introducing Autodesk Docs and some of the workflows and features as part of the tool. So like we said, Docs forms a common data environment that complies with ISO 19650, like Yanni had mentioned. And some of the characteristics or some of the features that you'd get on the platform will be things like document control, like I've mentioned, comparing files, whether it's 2D or 3D, transferring data between projects in terms of connecting different projects, but also connecting different stakeholders, as well as mocking up on like using drawings or using the platform as a redlining tool, as well as issues and tracking those, and issue management, change management as well, and then tracking of information that is being transmitted to stakeholders. In terms of the document management, just the main features of that would be Docs Forms, the main document repository tool for the platform, which gives you control over managing all of the information that sits on the platform by various permissioning tools, being able to have access or visibility of the versioning, the different revisions that are being uploaded, as well as backup files. In addition to that, incorporating your review, approval, and sharing workflows gives you a little bit of a more efficient workflow in terms of sharing and getting information approved throughout the project. And then just to quickly touch on some of the formats that are viewable as well as uploadable to the platform. In terms of your authoring tools, the main ones would be AutoCAD files, IFC files, Navisworks, Revit, object files, step files, IPT files, as well as a bunch of other ones. And then media will be various types of imaging files as well as video files. And then one of the very nice tools is the fact that it is compatible with Microsoft Office files, not just to view, but also to edit, especially things like Word documents, PDF, PowerPoints, Excel spreadsheets. It makes it a little bit more efficient. And then in terms of the other types, PDFs are one of the main formats that a lot of people share drawings via. So uploading PDFs, uploading zip files, etc. So just to touch on a couple of the main features that Autodesk Docs includes in terms of in terms of your viewing, your comparison, your document control, approvals, etc. I'm going to take you through a couple of those workflows so you get a good sense of what the platform offers. So in terms of your 2D and 3D viewing and those capabilities and how you can view them in conjunction with each other or separately, viewing your PDFs that have been shared with you, placing or putting yourself in first-person mode into a 3D model to get a good sense of the actual space from a visualization point of view, but also getting access to the actual documentation as well. That gives you a good idea of the plan and design of the project. In terms of your document control and managing who sees what in a project, you have the permission control or permission settings. This can be set by user, by role, or by company, and there are 6 different levels of permissions that can be assigned to people in order for the people to have, or the stakeholders to have, the right information at the right time throughout the project. In terms of your design reviews and keeping everybody and keeping all stakeholders accountable for items that are assigned to them, you have issues and issue management, where that allows stakeholders to assign issues to others, to assign issues to their own companies via drawings, via models, and pinpointing exactly where those issues are for people to address that and for better issue resolution as well. And then in terms of your approvals, and getting information approved, whether it's by a different stakeholder, whether it's by the managers of the project, by the client, having access to something like the reviews tool by submitting documents for approval, whether it's to multiple people or just to one person, and also utilizing different workflows. So you can have different types of review workflows that will allow you to have different types of approvals that need to get done in the project. And then in terms of collaborating with others and communicating with others, all of this can be done on the platform in terms of communicating via red lines. So using the markup tool in Autodesk Docs, changing the graphics of it, changing the visibility of it, and then publishing those to make it available for other stakeholders to see so that they can attend to those markups as well. And then looking at comparing the files. So this is one of the very useful tools in the platform in terms of being able to compare 2D files as well as 3D files. So if we look at an AutoCAD file, even a PDF, there's different ways of comparing them, whether it's by overlaying the changes on top of each other or whether it's by using a slider like you see here. It's basically giving you access to very easily see what has changed and what hasn't. So that can, in terms of your change management, in terms of course correction and changing the design and knowing what you need to do based on other stakeholders or other professional changes within the project, that gives you access to that. And then also viewing it with by an overlay, so being able to then see what was, again, just a different way of looking at what was changed between the old version and the new version. And then in terms of your 3D, this is a useful tool because it gives you a better visualization of the changes. So by filtering out what was added, what was removed, and what was modified, and really filtering out your list to gain access to the things that are most important to you, that are most relevant to you, so you can ascertain what needs to be done in the next stage. Okay, and then just to summarize, Autodesk Docs in terms of the approvals, document control, collaboration, design review. Some of the other key features will be things like creating transmittals, connecting Autodesk Docs from the cloud to your computer using a desktop connector, an authoring tool, as well as providing 2D and 3D support to everybody on the project. And with this, in terms of the other suite of software packages that Autodesk has, Autodesk Docs also sits within Autodesk Architecture, Engineering, and Construction Collection, also known as the AEC Collection, and licenses of Autodesk Docs are managed on a one-to-one basis. So Docs is included in that collection for stakeholders to have access to, with all of the other authoring tools such as Revit, Plant 3D, Civil 3D, Navisworks, etc. Okay, so I'm now going to introduce you to Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro. This is specifically looking at it from a design perspective. It's very much aimed at designers, reviewers, even decision makers on the project, but specifically in terms of collaborating with the various stakeholders as well as doing coordination and clash detection. So in terms of needing to do certain design tasks in the project, such as model aggregation, co-authoring on the cloud, just from a general daily workflow point of view, as well as creating coordination spaces for different teams to have access to run their own model reviews and clash detection, issue analysis, reviewing your designs, creating meetings on the platform, and then having the ability to report off of a lot of the items outstanding, a lot of the items that need attention on the platform or on the project. So the platform, specifically BIM Collaborate Pro, is for the whole project team. Like I said, especially the design team. So in terms of the designers and the authors on the project, it will be catered more towards Revit, the users of Revit, Civil 3D, and Plant 3D. But also in terms of the reviewers, being able to access all of the data within one unified platform gives them the ability to properly review all of the information and what is happening on the project throughout the different work stages, as well as from a decision-making point of view, being able to gain insight on the clashes that are coming up or that are being detected on the platform for the project. That allows you to make better decisions in terms of what is the way forward. So thinking about this and thinking about teams that will be collaborating from different parts of the world, you may have somebody in Istanbul, you may have somebody sitting in London, you may have somebody sitting in Mauritius, in South Africa, and everybody is going to then be able to access the same data at the same time, the data that they have permissions to access, the ones that's most relevant to them, and that is allowing them to access it via whatever authoring tool they're using, like I said, be it Revit, Civil 3D, Plant 3D, AutoCAD as well. And then just to take you through a quick workflow in terms of design collaboration and how each of the teams would collaborate with each other, how they would share information as well as receive information. So if we think about different teams that you'd have on the project, so if we just bundle that up into 3 categories, architects, MEP, and engineers, and they are all sharing their Revit models to the cloud. They each have their models, they each have different versions, and that is their work in progress model. In Autodesk Docs will live, their published models will live in that platform for each team. And then on top of that, within design collaboration, the teams will make use of the timeline within design collaboration for the shared data that is going to then live on that platform. So making use of that is going to give everybody access to having the correct information, the latest information that is being shared, but also tracking when that information was shared with them, whether it's correct, being able to explore packages, being able to compare packages, and also creating issues while you're exploring packages of information that is shared with you. Okay, so then just in terms of working with the teams within design collaboration, there we go. So working with the teams within design collaboration and having that actually be set up. So in terms of the actual teams, the professional teams that are working on the project, those teams will need to be set up for the project. And this can be set up by typing it in and adding it. That will then create a folder to that team. But additionally, you're also able to select existing folders based off of the folder structure that you may have already set up based off of a project template, for example. So then this makes your workflows a little bit easier in terms of getting the teams set up for the platform. Additionally to that, you're able to control the colors assigned to teams, and this will aid in terms of your visualization and your visibility, being able to view the models and looking at it from a federated model point of view. On top of that, you're able to manage the members that will be part of each team. So when you add members that are part of each team, you're able to give them various permission levels. And this will basically tell the product or tell the tool that these are the people that will be part of the MEP team, that they will have permissions to do certain tasks within there. But overall, it just gets everybody on the same page. Okay, then in terms of creating and consuming packages, like I had mentioned earlier, in terms of the data that is being uploaded to the platform and shared, or published rather, creating a new package will then take that published information and share it officially with the rest of the team. So that is basically you saying, okay, this is the information that is shared, it was published, or this is the information that was published, I can now share it with the rest of the team as an official package, and you can couple it up with other documents so that it's not just a model, it's not just sheets, it's not just views, it can be multiple things within one package that gives the other stakeholders access to that. So coming from a different team, from the architecture team, seeing that the structural engineer has shared something, they are able to explore that package and they are able to consume those changes. So that the act of consuming will then give better access to that model for the architect to then link that model back into Revit using the exact file path to Autodesk Docs using their desktop connector. So that means that every single time a package is shared by another consultant and the architect consumes it, that will update the link within their model, and that goes for all other consultants. Then in terms of sharing your design changes and more about the changes that are going to be occurring throughout the project, there's a lot of changes that are going to be happening that are very easy to miss. So the tool that BIM Collaborate Pro provides to mitigate that is the change visualization. So the change visualization tool allows you to very quickly, and it looks a little bit similar to Docs, but it's a bit more catered towards your design changes. This allows you to then very quickly compare what was changed between a previous version and a new version, allowing you to gain better insight into what is happening on your project. And then in terms of your model coordination, once your model is now federated into the platform, you've shared changes, you have the ability to create coordination spaces. And this can be coordination spaces for each discipline. It can be one main coordination space for all projects or all models within one space, but you can also have discipline to discipline coordination that allows you to then gain access to all of the different clashes that are being detected. Like you can see here, we've compared MEP and structure, and now we can see all of the pipes that are passing through the concrete walls, and we can ascertain whether these positions are maybe efficient or maybe they're a little bit inefficient. It's going to affect the structural integrity of the wall, for example. So we can create an issue based off of this and get it assigned to somebody, give it a due date, and that is then also trackable in the clashes tool. You can see who it's assigned to, the company, as well as when this needs to be resolved by, to keep the stakeholders and all professionals in the project accountable. And then lastly, before I hand over to Yanni for construction, in terms of your issue management, so yes, you can create all of these issues. You're also able to create non-issues. So when you find things that are for example, a valid interface, for example, then you can create non-issues. But with your issue management, it's not just isolated to Construction Cloud. You can plug this directly into Revit in terms of managing your issues, changing the statuses, creating other issues, and loading those directly from Construction Cloud to have better visibility. But with that, you also have access to those issues in Navisworks. You can load multiple files that are sitting on Construction Cloud or on BIM Collaborate Pro that you can then open up in Navisworks and manage the issues that have been created on Construction Cloud, as well as creating additional issues in this platform that will then be synchronized back to the cloud as well. And with that, you are also able to run additional clash tests still using Navisworks' clash detective tool. And when you create or when you detect those clashes, you're able to create issues from those clashes, and that again will synchronize back to the cloud. Okay, so with that being said, these tools again will provide you with the insight, with the knowledge, with the data in order to manage all of your, project. Whether you're a quantity surveyor, whether you're a project manager, whether you're an architect or an engineer, it still gives everybody access to the issues, to the data that they need access to throughout the project. And that is it from me. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand back over to Yanni, and she's going to take you through the construction part of Autodesk Construction Cloud.
Thank you, Sue. Will you give me back the rights, or should I take back the rights?
No, I gave it back to you. Okay, gave it back to you now.
Go, show my screen. And then, Savanya, if you can just confirm that you can see my main screen.
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Thank you, Savanya. So now that we've had the quick version of everything that you can do in Autodesk Docs, your document management, your version control, approvals, uploading and managing multiple different file formats, and then also having a look at how you can manage your models, your model collaboration, your clash detection and coordination, and following up on those issues in your coordination meetings. Let's have a look at what happens when we actually need to start construction. And how can you better work with the other individuals that's on a project, and how can you better collaborate with them using the Autodesk Construction Cloud? Autodesk Construction Cloud, we didn't mention this in the beginning. I think Savanya may have said this, but this is like the collective noun, and within that there's multiple different products. So we've spoken about Autodesk Docs, We've spoken about BIM Collaborate or BIM Collaborate Pro, and now we're talking about Autodesk Build. So if you hear build, think construction. Now, in terms of looking at the entire Autodesk Construction Cloud platform, we've seen the design collaboration, the model coordination, but with this platform, and Savanya had mentioned with Takeoff, you can do your quantification. We're also going to have a look at what can you do from a project management, safety management, project closeout, managing quality and safety, and there's other additional aspects like cost estimation, takeoffs, multiple different other things, basically taking you from planning and design to pre-construction to construction and operation and maintenance. This just gives a one-page overview of the highlighted features and functionalities. We've heard about Autodesk Docs, and really with Autodesk Docs, this is establishing your common data environment or your document management system, and it is in line with those requirements set by the ISO standard. Then everything from BIM Collaborate and Takeoff is really about establishing both internal and external collaboration processes, specifically during your design. Now for Autodesk Build, we're talking about what can you do with all of this information and how can you connect the design office and the team that's doing the design to everyone in the field. We know that often we're doing projects that's not in our town or even in our country, and how can we make it easier for all of these project ecosystems to know what is going on in the field without necessarily having to go to site every day. And that is where Autodesk Build comes in. In summary, if we look at Autodesk Build, the main features and functions within that is your program management, or a lot of the scheduling also, things like requests for information, submittals, transmittals, managing meetings and meeting minutes, your issue tracking, whether that's coordination issues, commissioning issues, safety issues, safety planning, also creating and linking the costing to the teams and doing some asset management. Let's start off by looking at requests for information. RFIs, I know that some people also refer to them as inquiries for information, but how can you do this within the system? So what you're seeing in front of you is the landing page or the main dashboard within Autodesk Build. It gives us some project information already, and we can see that there's a specific feature for RFIs. Now, as I mentioned, everything is permission controlled, so I may decide that for David, the architect, he should have review permission, so he can review the RFI. There's multiple different workflows, and you can customize fields. So maybe we want to have a look at what trades are affected by this RFI, so that it's easier to go and filter to say, show me all RFIs for my HVAC. Then we can start creating an RFI. So imagining that I'm the subcontractor or the contractor, and I need some dimensions for a room, and I'm assigning that to the architect and asking him, listen, here's the drawing. I can link that to the specific drawing or the sheet so that he knows what I'm referring to. And I can add watches, that's like copying in someone so that they get the information. This has now been sent to David, and David can submit an official response. Once we have his response, we can also go and close and distribute. But what's quite nice is if someone needs to approve, they can just approve by sending an email, because you do get these email notifications. So you don't necessarily need to go into the system. Alternatively, if there's someone not on the project, maybe it's an RFI for signage, so they're not actively participating, I can just send them an email and ask them to respond on email. Another nice, so here we're looking for some dimensions because some requirements have changed. Again, we need our architect to review this, but from here we can raise a potential change order. So if there's different requirements for the bathroom configurations, we know that this will most likely have a cost impact. All of these things can also be done on a mobile device. So if you are a contractor or subcontractor or professional team in the field, you can take your mobile device, Android or iOS, and go and either submit your official responses if you are reviewing RFIs, or if you are creating your RFIs, you can do that from your mobile device. Next, I want to touch on the scheduling and managing your project plan. Now, keep in mind, this is not to create your program or your schedule, but this is simply to manage and integrate it with other things. You can see that there's multiple different types, like Microsoft Project, Primavera, and so forth, that I can go and upload. Now it has uploaded my schedule or my program, and I can again go and set permissions, right information, right people, right time, to see, should I allow everyone to see the schedule or only selected individuals? You can change your date range and look at it either by list and Gantt chart, or just Gantt chart, or just list, different ways of viewing your program. You can also go and filter this to say, show me perhaps only critical and only everything that's related to labor, or show me everything that happened last year or last month, or what's happening, what's the schedule saying for the next month. There's dependencies, if you want to have a look at specific dependencies, the baseline program, and so forth. What is quite nice, and we're looking here at something that's specific to the floor slab, as you can see, both the predecessor and the successor to that specific task. But we can go and add references. So I've added a reference here for multiple issues. And I can go and comment to say, listen, there's been multiple issues, so I'm suggesting that we move out the date for this because we are having challenges. So this will most likely be delayed. And in this scenario, we can send that suggestion to perhaps the PM, and they can go and review to say, okay, I've allowed this change. We know that there were issues. Let's update our program to version 2, and we'll see that we are no longer going to finish on the 4th of November. We may only be able to finish a little bit later. And again, most of this can be viewed and also done on a mobile device. If you're not sitting with your computer, if you're out on site, or if you're traveling, you still have that visibility. And we can see here that there's another issue around the floor slab and with the construction pour that we can go and log. So if you are experiencing, and we all know this happens, changes and delays with your project plan, you can reference your issues, your RFIs, anything else that had an impact on why the schedule had to be amended, or how can we manage that risk to mitigate it. Next, let's have a look at quality and safety. Now, I'm saying quality and safety, but what you are going to see in terms of these functionalities, it is something that can be used for multiple different things. Could be snagging, inspections, safety checks, quality checks, a variety of different things. And this is all done using forms. Now, you can create form templates. Your form templates can be done using a smart PDF, so a template that looks and feels like your organization's, or creating the Autodesk template with specific workflows, and you can go and decide who's doing this. So in this scenario, we just have a quick quality check. These checks can all be exported so that you have backups and PDF reports that includes photos and so forth. And this gives you an idea of what that checklist will look like. So here we're just checking for forms, the hauling equipment, and so forth. You'll note in each one of these scenarios, it pulls in weather data. From a quality control point of view, let's see what you can do for forms in this scenario. So in this scenario, again, we can see it pulls through our weather data. And here we're looking at whether the truck bed is clean. Okay, this is a fail, and I can immediately go and add an issue. or I can attach other forms or notes or photos. And it can also be signed off by a foreman. So in this case, you can see that I have assigned an issue to Bill because during my inspection, I saw that there was a problem. There is a full activity log for everything that happened in this specific check. So who's assigned it, who's added documents, who's added photos, and who's ultimately signed it off. When we think about how do we manage these different quality issues, this will all also be under issues, and there's multiple different types of issues. So you can create root causes. You can see here there's different types, so commissioning, coordination, whether it's safety and so forth, and you can create root causes if you want to start doing some root cause analysis. In this scenario, we can see here there's a quality issue, and this quality issue can be pinpointed to an exact location on your drawing. So incorrect flooring installed in this scenario, and I'm adding the different comments. This is what I saw when I went to go and do my snags. I'm the architect, for example, and I can assign that to the contractor, and they will get an email saying, someone has assigned an issue, you need to go and fix something. They can add references, for example, oh, here's the RFI, you said it's incorrect, please tell me what is correct, and the architect can provide that answer. So what's nice about this in terms of the forms is that it could be quality, safety, snagging, and it links and talks to the other information. If I see an issue, I can do this from my mobile device. Immediately, I'm logging that issue and assigning that issue to the relevant person. If that person says, listen, yes, I installed the incorrect flooring, but this is because the RFI that we raised 2 weeks ago, you said I should go ahead with this. Or here's the drawing, I got this information here, everything is connected. Now, forms can also be used for daily reporting. Daily reporting is the Autodesk terminology. Multiple different people refer to this as, in some cases, it could be called your site diary or your daily diary, usually a book held in the site office. Again, we are using forms because they're so multifunctional, and we're going to create our daily diary. This template can be modified, so you can say this is the daily diary. We want to have a look at the work log, the laborers, the plant or equipment, and this definitely done on a mobile device. Instead of writing in your book at the site office, you can do this on your mobile device in the morning, in the afternoon, open it up, it automatically pulls in weather data, and I can go and add, this is the crew, this is the amount of workers, this is the material, this is the plant that we had on site. So in that scenario, had some concrete waste. I can also go and take some photos with my mobile device and attach it to that specific form. All of these other things, as you can see here, can also be done on the mobile device. And the difference with this is if I'm doing my daily diary or my daily site report on the mobile device, there's an auditable track record, and everyone who's not in the site office can see it because it is live and immediately accessible. Next, let's have a look at project meetings, because managing project meetings and meeting minutes and tasks and follow-ups is a big job on its own. You can create meetings within this. You can add your multiple different invites. If it's an online meeting, you can link it to Teams and start building your meeting agenda. So for this meeting, we're looking at all of our open RFIs, our submission, our submittals, and any risk items. In this scenario, I see that there's a problem with the handrail. We're sitting in the meeting now, and I can immediately go and add that issue and assign that issue to someone. The trip hazards, that's been closed. I tick everyone who's attended my meeting, assign another item, and once the meeting is done, I can go and create a follow-up for the following week. This is the agenda. Once we are completed, that agenda will then turn into meeting minutes, and all of the issues that we created or tasks that we have assigned during the meeting is automatically captured. So no more waiting 2 weeks for meeting minutes, having to type everything out, and then having to follow up with meeting minutes. And again, this can be done on your mobile device. So if you're traveling, if you're not sitting behind your computer, you can still keep track of all of your meeting minutes and the tasks and the items that has been assigned. That makes it so much easier to get your meeting minutes out and to stay on top of managing all of the different tasks. Then submittals. Now, the Autodesk terminology is submittals. Some people refer to it as construction submittals, but basically this is anything from reports to warranties to shop drawings, specifications, things that need to be submitted, in some cases also need to be approved, that forms part of the project. In this scenario, you can see that you can create multiple different items. We're looking at fire extinguishers, and that just makes sure that everything is attached to where it needs to go. So these are certificates for the fire extinguishers, and I can choose a due date to go, please approve or submit this by a specific date, and that will then be sent to Alpha Plumbing in this scenario. They can have a look at this to go, okay, someone has asked me for the certificate for the fire extinguishers. I have submitted it. It can be reviewed. Imagine this is shop drawings or specifications that needs to be approved. This can also be approved. So Alpha Plumbing, who perhaps is a subcontractor, has sent this information. The main contractor looked at this and said, great, this is approved as noted. And he can submit his official response to go, great, this is approved. And once it's been approved, it can be closed and distributed. This also makes it very useful for the client, the developer, the owner at the end of the day, to have a full track record, everything in one place of what has been installed and approved in his building. Again, if I need to go and access that, I can go and access it to my mobile device. I can also approve or review it on my mobile device. Similar process would apply if we were submitting shop drawings and someone needed to approve the shop drawings or specific material or plumbing fixtures, wide variety of different use cases for submittals. But again, one central place, we can see it's been approved. We can see how it links to where it is placed on the drawing or other aspects. Talking about assets, because now we're starting to talk about asset data, let's look at the progress tracking and using assets. So in this scenario, you can also start to create some assets and pull some assets from your sheets. So here's my sheets or my drawings, and I can see that there's a couple of air handling units here that I want to create as assets so that we can link to the specific aspect, whether it has been installed, whether it has been approved in a submittal, and so forth. So I can show all of my assets and I can see, okay, these two different aspects and they are all delivered. We can change the status to installed or waiting or delivered or inspected. And you can do this on your mobile device as well. So if I wanted to go and add images or photos to say that it is installed, you can see that there. Here's my list of all of my lighting and appliance assets, what has been ordered, what has been delivered, which date, and again, makes a great way to track all of the different assets and aspects, and then later on to use as handover for whoever is going to manage the building or the facility or the assets that we are working on. So in this scenario, I'd be able to see everything that I have in my building. Using this in conjunction with submittals, we'll also be able to see the specs, the warranties, the manuals, and so forth. Then I've spoken a little bit about how this would make sense to hand over and using it as built. Again, same dashboard. This dashboard provides information on project milestones and all of the recent activities. But if I go to my settings here, you'll see that there's an option to create an as-built export. Not only is this a great way to do the handover for the client or employer, but it is also a great way to keep your own backup and archive of information from specific projects. So in this scenario, we can see our sheets or our drawings, and I can select to say, do I want all or only current? Do I want all of my RFIs or only my closed RFIs? But let's go and do an export of everything. So it exports all of that information, what has been submitted, my RFIs, my drawings, and creates a nice little downloaded zip file. And here I can see my sheets with my construction drawings, everything listed here. And in the scenario, we had included the markups that we had done, and we can also find other aspects if we wanted to go and add in notes, but the RFIs and the sheets can be part of that turnover documentation and having everything in one place. Now, with such vast amounts of data, you've heard I'm talking about issues and RFIs, and Savanya had said, oh, you can do these little issues and tasks and things from the coordination space. This information is only really useful if there's a way that you can easily report and view all of the data. And that's really where the reporting and the dashboards come in. Oh, hold on, let's skip one step ahead. There you go. So I've mentioned just the home page gives you information. I can see I have an overdue issue, an ongoing issue. I can see what's coming up next in terms of my milestones, all of the recent activity on my project. I've got one RFI, I've got 16 overdue aspects, and 50% of this project is also synced to my mobile device. There's an offline sync. But if we go to the Insight tab, you'll see that there's multiple different Insight tabs that I can create. So I want to create a dashboard specifically for my commissioning. There are cards, and these cards are different ways to view and display information. External partner cards, if you were using things like OpenSpace or Plannerly or Power BI, you can add that in here as well. So for this commissioning dashboard, we've got our Power BI, but you can also look at risks. So this shows all of the reviews. It shows where my projects are. It shows which projects are potentially at risk. If you have projects in multiple areas, you can change it by location or by type of project. And we can see which projects have more issues or less issues, or which contractors are always delayed. So in this scenario, if we're looking at the construction IQ space and trying to think about, okay, where do we have quality issues? Where do we have safety issues? What can we start doing with the dashboard? So here you can see that there's a couple of critical issues. There's 2 high-risk RFIs. There's 1 high-risk issue from a safety point of view. You can also see our subcontractors at risk. And if you want to just get a sense of what is happening from design or what is happening from quality or safety, there's multiple ways of filtering this so that you get the information that you need in order to see what needs to be addressed. So incorrect flooring installed, we looked at this before. This is actually medium impact, and it falls under a specific category, if you wanted to put it like that. Just general reporting, if you want to report for show me all of the open RFIs or show me all of the overdue issues, there's multiple different types of reports. So let's create an RFI report, but I want it in Excel, and you can add some filters to say, only show me everything that's coming up in the next 30 days and run and save this. Now, what is nice about this is you can also auto schedule it. So if I had to put this into a schedule to say every week on Monday at 8 a.m. Please send this report of the open RFIs to myself and Bill and David, and you'll automatically get it in your email, the report. If you are using things like Power BI and you want different ways to visualize all of this information, you can use your data connector to extract all of the information from here to be able to visualize it in different platforms. So having a look at the Power BI example, here we can see a different way of looking at all of the information, whether that is our RFIs, how many things have we installed, where are we delayed in terms of equipment being delivered. And then, like we mentioned, that dashboard can be attached to the dashboards in here so that everyone can get access to that. Multiple different ways of viewing the reports and the information. Then one of the last things, but certainly not least, is Autodesk Bridge. Now, what happens with Autodesk Bridge, and it's something that we're seeing more and more, what happens if you are the architect or perhaps you are the project manager and you are working on a project and you want to host the project. So you have the information of the project and you want to be in control of managing the RFIs. But perhaps the architect said, well, we also have the project and we want to be in control of the coordination aspect. Using Bridge really allows you to bridge multiple projects. So that could be projects like this scenario where you, the project manager, and the architect is also hosting it. Or it could be a scenario where you have a project and there's, imagine a data center and there's fit out 1 and fit out 2, and some things that you used in the original project or phase 1 needs to tie into the next. So this allows you to bridge that information. Direct project linking could be with another project. You can also share things outside of your hub. But ingoing, outgoing, and automations, let me give you an example. I could say everything uploaded in this folder would also be automatically copied to that folder on the other project or on the architect's project, so that you have multiple systems that's integrated. A couple of reasons why Bridge has been very popular is it definitely saves quite a lot of time in terms of having to upload things in multiple places, reducing that repetitive work, really enhancing the collaboration because people can have their own data ownership and their own control. You may want to be the administrator of your project because you are the project manager and you want to control the dashboards and the reporting, but so does the architect. And this allows you to bridge information between those two projects. Just lastly, from a project closeout point of view, just want to show you another little bit of a mobile example. And again, here we can see our drawings. Works for other things like infrastructure, not just buildings. And what's happening here is we have all of the photos of the actual as-built, and someone is creating an issue here to say, I've just been to site, and just so that you know that what I'm seeing on the drawing isn't exactly the same as what I'm seeing on site. So in this scenario, the guardrail needs to change slightly. We can send that back and update that in the model. There has been an issue, it's under review. We can see the photos of what the actual as-built or what it looks like on site. This drawing has now been updated to be a real as-built. It reflects what is on site and we can go and close that issue. So a really nice way to also just make sure that the as-built drawings are true as-built, not really as designed, through using things like the issues and communicating back and forth to make sure your drawings are updated. So now we've introduced you and Savanya has shown you Autodesk Docs, which really is the foundation. It includes your document control, document versioning, document approvals. We've also seen Vim Collaborate for your issue management and your automatic clash detection, and having all of those Revit models be live and talk to one another. We've mentioned takeoff, and we've shown you how an Autodesk build, you can do your project management, safety management, scheduling, project close out, handover, and so forth. I think it is worth mentioning that with Autodesk Construction Cloud, there are about 275 or more than 275 different partners or different types of solution partners that connects with this. I use the example of if you're using Power BI or OpenSpace or Smartsheets, those all partner with the Autodesk software. There's more than 400 different integrations that links with Autodesk Construction Cloud. And then also in terms of wanting to create custom integrations, it does have a open API. So the possibilities are absolutely endless. Autodesk Construction Cloud does talk to lots of different pieces of technology, but it also allows you to go and create your own. We've spoken about so many different aspects and so many different names, but just to give you a kind of one-page overview of the Autodesk landscape, I've mentioned that Autodesk Docs is really the foundation. It sits at the bottom or at the core of all of your document management and your design. Some of you may be using things like Revit or Civil 3D or AutoCAD that ties into Docs. We know that the Collaborate solutions are more specific to your designers, building and takeoff, to the management team. And then if you want to stack it to the next level, to look at things like Tandem for your true digital twins. I've mentioned that Autodesk Construction Cloud integrates with a lot of different other pieces of software. While some of this is not out the box and may require additional investment, this just gives you a quick little view of everything from data analytics to finance and ERP and supply chain management and project management and things that can integrate with Autodesk Construction Cloud. In closing, I want to just launch another quick poll to get some feedback from the attendees today. Oh, let me go and find my next poll. I'm going to launch that. So what I would like to hear from the attendees is really, how can we help you find out more? Would you be interested to seeing a demo and really getting deeper into some of these aspects? We did go through everything quite quickly and there is a lot to go through. Is this something that you think, oh, we're on a project and there's a client or a contractor or the other engineers that really would like to see this? Perhaps you just want more information, or maybe you think, listen, this is great, but not really for me right now. Would love to get some feedback in terms of how can we help you get more information. I can see some votes coming in. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to give it another, let's give it probably another 15 seconds just to wait for the remainder of our attendees to please add your poll answer. Okay, at the moment we're in between want more information, want to see a demo. Yes. A personalized demo does allow us to go into a little bit more detail around the specifics and really understanding your organization and how you would use it. There's just over 60% who's voted so far, so I am going to give it just another couple of seconds just to make sure that we get everyone's responses. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. In closing, just to touch on this, and this is a quote from one of Autodesk's customers in terms of, if you are not embracing digital transformation, your competitors will. I know that this, for some of you, may be quite a lot to go, oh, it's not really sure if we need to go that way, but there are multiple other organizations that have gone the common data environment and digitizing construction management processes. And I guess asking yourself and your organization, what is your new possible? What is possible, and where are there areas in our business that we can start small with our changes and with adopting these new digital workflows, and how will that impact our business, and how will that benefit our business? Then, before we say goodbye, and let's get to some of the questions. I think there's one question that I had already answered. I just want to pop out the question box here. Great. Okay. I'm not sure if everyone else can see the question box, but I will just read out the answers that we have already provided. We had someone asking, does it pertain to Revit models or other information? With two answers, because I think there's different contexts here. But yes, it definitely, whether you are talking about the ISO standard, BIM, or a common data environment, it does pertain to Revit models, but it also most definitely pertains to multiple other aspects of information, like you've seen construction documents, reports, and so forth. But then also the platform does support Revit models and other information in terms of all of those different file formats that you've seen. So things like IFC, Civil 3D, AutoCAD, there's a variety of different file formats that is supported on the system. I want to just give it a moment to see if there are any other questions that we may have missed. Okay, what would be the recommended common data environment? Because we sometimes find that the BIM manager dictates the common environment when all our models are on Construction Cloud. Great. That is a very good question. Someone's asking what would be a recommended common data environment. Yes, in some cases, you do find that the BIM manager or perhaps someone else from the project team say, oh, this is what we have to use. For me, and I'm biased here, I would love to say that yes, the recommended common data environment should be Autodesk Construction Cloud. But I think when you are looking at a common data environment, remember what the ISO standard and the industry best practices says around this is a common data environment, because whilst SharePoint could be seen as a common data environment, SharePoint is a common data environment for HR managers and office operations and people in administrative roles. SharePoint is not custom built for the construction industry, and it does not necessarily know how to use that information. It is very good for multiple other aspects, but look at that list of a common data environment in the construction BIM space need to do the following. And the alternative here is if you have someone who is using a different common data environment and they have perhaps suggested or dictated a different common data environment, to have a look at a scenario of potentially linking different aspects. I don't see any other questions coming in, and we are almost at the top of the hour, so we've done pretty well with our timekeeping. I noticed that there's, yes.
Sorry, while during the presentation, I received a couple of emails from people requesting a recording if possible, so we can just go through it again at a later stage. And also someone saying that he couldn't ask questions online, but he would like to have a demo of Autodesk Takeoff.
Great. So we do have your information. If you had attended today, the recording will be shared with you. If you have any other questions, we will definitely get in touch after today to make sure that we can address some of the questions that couldn't be addressed here, or set up additional demos. I want to read another question because I think it's a very good one. I've also noticed there's a slight difference between ACC and BIM 360 when it comes to the project template. Is there a specific reason for that? For clarification, our office has a project template, but BIM 360 does not have the same feature. To put this into context for the rest of the attendees today, a couple of years ago, the platform was called BIM 360, and we had BIM 360 Docs, BIM 360 Build, BIM 360 Design. That has since changed, and we now, the correct way to refer to it as Autodesk Construction Cloud Unified Platform. But there are some differences between BIM 360 and Autodesk Construction Cloud. It looks and feels very similar. Most of the time, I would probably say that if you know BIM 360, you can kind of work your way around Autodesk Construction Cloud because it is similar. There are a couple of small functional changes. Personally, I think most of the great, cool new functionality is in Autodesk Construction Cloud, but think of this as kind of the old version and the new version. There's definitely some template changes. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but I will definitely, for the gentleman who's been asking the questions, I will definitely make sure that we get in contact afterwards. And then last question, do we need a separate license for Autodesk Build? So how the licensing works is, like Savanya had mentioned, Autodesk Docs, you can have a subscription for Autodesk Docs. If you have a subscription for BIM Collaborate or BIM Collaborate Pro, it includes Autodesk Docs. If you have a subscription for Build, it includes Autodesk Docs. So if you are in an office where you're just using Docs because you're uploading information and sharing it that way, and you would like Build because you want to start using the RFIs and the meeting minutes and those types of things, yes, you do need a license for Build, but Build does include Docs. BIM Collaborate Pro does include Docs. Takeoff does include Docs. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. I think there's a lot more questions and a lot more information that we can definitely get to everyone. So like I've mentioned, we will get in touch with everyone who had a question that we couldn't get to or who wants to see a demo. But thank you for spending your morning with us today. I hope you found this webinar useful, and we look forward to engaging with you in the future.